So today we're going to be ushering in a new era of jumpers, heating off, homemade haircuts, horrifying images on my laptop at all times, because today we're going to be going through my total net worth. And yeah, there's not really much introduction for that. It's just like the net worth is the net worth. Briefly, for guys who don't know what it is, your net worth is essentially just what you own versus what you own minus what you owe, as in all of your cash, savings, investments, assets, minus all your loans, debts, repayments, etc. And then that total is your net worth. Of course, it can be positive or it can be negative. I'm going to be breaking YouTube's #1 rule, the watch time law. I'm going to be breaking right now by telling you my net worth right off the bat is like minus 87,335. I've got all the notes here. If you do want to, this is a little cheat. If you want to cheat and get ahead of the video, these are the numbers that I'm going to be going by for this video. Obviously, I'm not going to just stick it there for, for the duration, but I did all the this is horrible. I did all the research earlier. Well, it's been like a week, to be fair. I've been doing like a week going over all the specific numbers. This is actually rounded because pennies are kind of irrelevant. But I've done all the research. It's not looking great. And with all that said, let's get straight into the video. So now I kind of feel like I'm looking at this, my camera flip out screen thing, and I kind of feel like this area is a bit empty. So I'm going to put something very close to my heart on the desk. This is my plaque from when I hit 100 subscribers back in September 2019. You've probably seen this around. It's always been a bunch of my old videos and just somewhere on the scene. So I'm going to slap it right here just for the sake of watch time. And yeah, let's actually get into the video. I'm just going to hold this up so I know what's going on. So yeah, let's talk first about what I own, and then we'll talk about what I owe, because as you can imagine, I'm not even going to bother holding out this little twist at the end, but the vast majority of my debt is student loans and just that kind of phantom debt that isn't really that substantial. So to say I'm like minus 87,000 pounds as a net worth isn't actually, it's quite disingenuous, but we're going to go through that at the end of the video anyway, the second part of the video. But for now, let's talk about what I own, and yeah, let's get it started. So the first thing I put down when I was going through all the research and stuff, the first thing I actually wrote down was my car, which is worth approximately £1,000. And the reason why I put my car first was because when you think of lifetime big investments, important purchases, people always say your house and then your car. Those are the two most important things, the two quote unquote biggest investments of your life. I don't really see a car as an investment. You can get a car. Some cars are investments. Mine's more of a liability right now. It's breaking down all the time. I'm looking to get a new one end of this year. But I don't know. I put my car first because, as I said, that seems like a big, the most adult thing I own is a car. Nothing else that I have really is adult. Kids have phones, laptops, kids have laptops, headphones, kids have headphones. So there's nothing really that's 18 plus that I own, of course, other than the car. So I don't know, that was just something that I was quite prideful about. I was like, yeah, I got a car. Makes you kind of feel a bit older. But yeah, £1,000, that's positive. An asset, technically speaking, that you can put in my net worth. I've also got my investments. So I put my investments as a whole down. But just to briefly break it down, I'm not going to break it down in too much depth because I'm planning to do another video next week reviewing my portfolio, and then I'm going to go through the specific individual investments and stocks and funds that I hold. But just for the sake of this video, for reviewing my my net worth, I'm going to break it down into 4 parts because I think that's the most important. And that is the £850 that I've got invested in. I call it venture capitalism. It's not actually. I'm not actually a venture capitalist. I haven't got the money to be a proper VC. Like an impact investor, but I've got £350 invested in Moneybox. I've got £500 invested in Freetrade. I thought I had money invested in Chip, but I guess it didn't go through, or just never followed through with that idea at the time. So that's £850. That the reason why I felt the need to separate that, and also my pension is £750, and my lifetime ISA is £1,200. All of that's invested, and the reason why I felt the need to separate those three, instead of just saying my investment total, is because I can't touch them, basically. Technically, they are assets. Technically, they are things that I own. Technically, when you're speaking about net worth, they are money. That is money that I have in my name, technically speaking. But, when it comes to investing in startups, for example, maybe if you guys want a proper video on startup investment and venture capitalism, let me know down below in the comments. And, of course, I'll put time aside to come out with a video for that topic as well. But just briefly, when you put money into a startup, a private company, you can't go and sell that on the stock market, because the stock markets for publicly traded companies, you can just kind of buy what you want, sell what you want whenever you want to do so. Private stocks don't work the same way. As I said, I'm not going to go into too much depth, but fundamentally, I can't really sell those. There are ways to sell them, but I don't think it's worth my time. Like, it's not like I'm a company with like millions of pounds invested in this company. It's literally like £850. I'm not gonna. I'll probably spend a lot of money in commission and fees and blah blah blah. So it's not worth selling them privately. All I've got to do instead is wait until either they IPO or they get bought by another company. I guess more like a SPAC. Traditionally, it's not necessarily a SPAC. Maybe like a bigger bank just like buys them. That's already public, so I can sell it through them. But again, not going to go into too much depth. But yeah, £850 in startups that I can't touch. £750 in a pension, also cannot touch. The reason why I've got a pension, briefly to explain that, is because when I was working, back when I was employed, back in the good old days before I was a student, I had a job, and with those jobs, in the UK at least, most jobs, I think all jobs actually, all employers should have an employer pension contribution scheme. And at Bristol, as a in the education sector, it was quite a nice employer contribution. I think it was like 11%. It's like 50-50 or something. I don't know. It was a good number. So I was like, you know what, screw it. I'm gonna get more money from them than from myself than I put into the pension anyway. So a good like 60% of that money isn't even mine. It's the stuff that was contributed by my employer. So I kind of saw that as free money, even though I can't touch it now. I've got to wait till I'm 55, I think. It's a current pension like rollover date. Just so guys know, it's a common myth. Your pension isn't necessarily aligned with your retirement. You can claim your pension before you retire, but obviously the point is that you retire through your pension. But yeah, when I'm 55-ish, I'll have, as of right now, £750 to play with, but that's 32 years away. So yeah. And then the last one I mentioned, my lifetime ISA. I do also have £550 invested in stocks, which I will talk about I got another video coming soon about 2 funds that I've got going on, which I think are quite interesting, quite fun. So that'll be another video. But that money is cool. That's something that I can touch. But the 1,200 in my lifetime ISA, I do already have a video, comparing the Help to Buy ISA to the lifetime ISA. So if you do want to hear more about what that specifically does, check that video out. I'll put it up in the iCards. But the reason why I've separated that again is because I also can't touch that money. The lifetime ISA, fundamentally, you can put in up to £4,000 per tax year, and your capital gains on that aren't taxed. But also, the government contribute 25% of a bonus on top of that, provided that you only spend it on your house or as a pension when you're 55, and that you can't touch it, basically. If you do touch it, you lose 25%, which basically is just a bonus. But if you have made loads of money on it from like investments, which I kind of have as well, then it adds up to be a lot more. So that's that. I've got 850 plus 750, which is 1,600, and then 1,200 in lifetime ISA, so £2,800 invested in stocks, funds, assets, etc. that I just cannot touch basically anytime soon. It's completely out of my hands. I just got to wait until I turn 55 for the pension, till I buy a house for the LISA, until Moneybox or Freetrade IPO will get bought out. So that's fun. But yeah, that's I'm gonna have everything on the side here for you guys to see what what my net worth is. I can keep a running tally up. But yeah, it's kind of interesting. Savings I've got next was £800. 500 is in Chip, which I've mentioned in the previous video, a very good account, and 300 somewhere else. I've got £100 in cash, which is £50 I've got on my debit cards, and then I've got a little box up here. I'm not going to show you what it looks like in case you guys try to run up on man, but I've got £50 in cash, in like actual cash, and then £50 in like debit, bank account cash. So £100, which, to be fair, is actually quite a lot in this economy. But we go on. I've got £100 in debts, and the difference between debt and debts in this case is like debt is like the debt that I owe. Debts with an S at the end is like what people owe me. I've got debts. People owe me. People are in debt to me. And at this point, that literally is just my 2 flatmates. Rent came out today. I haven't chased, not rent come out. Bills came out today. All the bills are in my name, which is great for my credit score, might I add. But the bills came out today. I haven't even requested the money back from them yet, so they currently owe me a total of £100 between them. Not bad, not bad to claim that back from those guys whenever I do it. And yeah, the rest of this isn't as substantial. I've got pending, which is kind of like debts as well, I guess, but I call it pending because it's not I guess I'm just waiting for it to come through. That's £50 from eBay from like things I sold in the last couple of days, and £200 from work, which is like hours that I've done between like February and now that haven't been paid out yet. I'll get the end of March, but yeah, decent money, not too bad, not too shabby. The biggest one that I didn't mention that that I'm going to mention now is tech, or just my possessions, and that can be things like my phones, headphones, earphones, laptop I got back here, the PS5, the TV, all my clothes, bags, shoes, the camera as well, obviously the microphones for the podcast and whatever. So all the stuff that I have, all the assets, things that are sellable, I guess, I value to be approximately £5 grand. Obviously, it's a complete approximation. But it took me a while to like go through all the clothes I own. I kind of just generalized, and like hoodies can go for like roughly £5 to £10. So let me just 5 times 15 or whatever number of hoodies I own and see what happens. So I came up with £5,000. Which is, it's not even that bad. I don't think it's great either. I feel like people own way more stuff than I do. But then that's because I've only got like one coat, I've got one hat there, a couple of hoodies. I don't really buy much. I've got 4 pairs of shoes. I don't own as much stuff as I could. So that's why that number's a bit lower than I thought it would be. But yeah, no, it's not too bad. In total, that's £10,600 of like assets, things that I own. But that's kind of the end of the good news part of this video. The rest of this gets pretty interesting, and I will break my debts down in depth as we talk about it, so I think it's quite interesting. But yeah, minus £87,335 is quite an interesting net worth to have when you're someone who's so in the know, financially savvy, so in the know of like whatever. It doesn't matter. I'm in my head right now. But let's talk about what I owe. Actually, one more thing. That I didn't include because technically it's not a tangible, quantifiable asset, but it is something that I think is necessary to mention, at least not to include but to mention, and that would be my self-worth. Yes, of course there are like subjective variables for self-worth, like confidence, whatever, but there's literally no way to quantify that. But the two things that I can quantify are things that I've purchased and consumed, which obviously food kind of like comes in and out of you, but like education obviously sticks in your mind, and the bits that don't stick in your mind I have stored on my laptop for as long as the internet and that exists, and that is £18,000 of university self-worth, and then £4,000 worth of like courses self-worth. Again, I didn't include it in my budget, in my total, but those two things do exist, and it will be a bit disingenuous for me to completely overlook that, because 2 years of university for £9,000 each. When I do graduate in 2 years time, that would be 4 complete years of study. £9,000 times 4, 36 grand basically is, you could argue, the cost of my degree, of that certificate validation. And even though it's not sellable per se, it is like something that I've had to buy that certificate, right? So, and work very hard as well to get it. So yeah, I'm gonna slap it in there. I'm not gonna include it in the numbers. The £87,335 negative net worth that I calculated does not include that 22,000 that I just made up, but it's in the void somewhere. It's in the space somewhere. But let's go on to, as I said, the more depressing part of this video. So I figured I might just speed run through this and then I'll break down what's interesting about it afterwards, because on face value I think it's just debts, but you'll see in a minute why I think this is interesting. So starting from, I guess, the cheapest of all my we're gonna work my way up from all the cheapest of my things that I owe, my liabilities, I guess, is £600 for bills, £1,035 for rent, £550 for credit card, for one credit card, £4,750 for another credit card. What else is there? £3,000 for this year's tuition, £71,000 for the last 4 years of tuition, student loans obviously, and then £2,000 overdrafts for my student account. Bills, man, bills. So like, yeah, now that's where all the money goes. That's a minus £97,935. That is massive. That's so much money. It's almost 100,000, almost like £100,000 that I owe to places. If I graduated right now and I was getting the average, like 21k per year, I think it's the average graduate salary. Let's just say 24k for my course. I do engineering, so you'd expect a bit more. So 24, 25k. Let's say 25k, make the maths easier, right? Let's just say I'm making 25k to make the maths easier. It will take me 4 years of gross salary, not even net, because obviously once tax, student loan repayments, national insurance comes out, and obviously actually living life, that 25k becomes very close to nothing by the end of the year. But if I was just getting my gross salary, wasn't paying anything on it, wasn't buying anything with it, it would take me 4 whole years to pay off my overdraft, my credit cards, my loan. Actually, I missed one off. There's £15,000 of a loan that I've got as well, that I missed off. So if you wonder why the maths doesn't add up, that's because I missed that one off. I took a loan out for 12.5 grand, and it's currently worth like 15k because because the interest has accumulated on it. But yeah, it will take me 4 years of earning 25k a year to pay that off, assuming that I keep that whole 25k. And that's a lot of money to owe when you're only 22 years old. I'm looking at 4 years in the future, which is what, a quarter of my life. So how do things get this bad, and why do I think these numbers are so interesting? Let me start with the bills and the rent, because those two things technically shouldn't be included in my net worth here, because I don't owe it technically yet. Like, I'm not in arrears. I've paid off all my rent and bills up until today. I'm not in any arrears. I don't owe them anything. So technically speaking, I shouldn't be including that. But the difference between these things and general subscriptions like Spotify, Netflix, gym, whatever, is that if I stop paying for Spotify, they'll just stop my subscription and that'll be it. There probably are some strings attached to it, but fundamentally there's no contract. I can't just stop paying and cancel my subscription. Rent, I can't just go to the estate agent and be like, yeah, I'm not paying that no more. I've moved out, because I've signed a contract for 12 months. And the same rules apply for the bills as well. I've signed contracts for 12 months of broadband, 12 months of water and heating and gas and all this different stuff. So I can't just cancel that. So even though I haven't used it yet and I don't owe them anything yet, I have signed the contract, so I am liable to pay. And that's why I kind of include it as a debt, because I will end up paying it anyway. And yeah, that's a bit annoying, but those are far from my biggest concerns at the moment. Because when we move up one level to the next expensive thing, we look at the £2,000 student overdraft I have in my account. That's very, very interesting to me, because it doesn't actually... People look at overdrafts as like this big red flag that I want to stay above zero. I don't want to use my 0% £2,000 overdraft I'm given as a student in the UK. And I kind of get it, because it's a psychological thing. You don't want to see a negative balance. And also it's annoying when when you know that you're in debt. It kind of is annoying to some people, and I get it. But I don't know, I kind of see it as a smart debt. All debts, debt isn't necessarily good or bad. It's like, it depends on how you use it. If your debt is 50% interest and you're not paying it and it's like accumulating rapidly, then yeah, that's bad debt. But in this case, it's 0% fine, 0% APR. There's no need to pay it off until well after I graduate, when they start taking it away from me. I think it's like 3 years after I graduate, 2 years after I graduate. So for the next 5 or so years, I can just not do anything. I can just leave that 2k debt over there. They won't bother me with it. It has no effect on my credit score. Yeah, they won't chase me for it. It's no interest. So what's the worry, basically? What I basically did when I first got my overdraft was I took it all out immediately, put it straight into a savings account, and I said, yeah, I'll come back for you in 4 years' time. 5 years later, that savings account is empty. Things aren't going too well. But yeah, I don't see it as a negative debt. Like, it is just something that exists. And I'll deal with it when the time comes. But for now, it's just that 2k is just kind of there, in the background. It's not something that's prominent in my mind. And then yeah, what else is there? There's the £5,300 of credit card debt, which I broke down into £550 and then £4,750. The reason why I did that was because that £550 was, well, both of these are interest free. Let me get that out, straight off the bat. But the £550 is interest free because on PayPal, if you spend through PayPal Credit, if you do have a PayPal Credit account, you can spend, or at least I can. I don't know if they still have this promotion running, but if you spend more than £99, if I spend more than £99, I get 4 months of interest free, period, where I can pay it back anytime within 4 months. And that's no strings attached, basically. Obviously, you still have to make the minimum payments to your account, but that £550 that I owe was what I bought the PS5 with and some games and the controller. I've been paying it back bit by bit, but because it's still 0% finance or APR, sorry, and it's still not due anytime soon. I think the rest of it's due in May. I've got 2 months. I've got the money in my accounts. I mentioned I've got just £100 in cash, but I do have £800 in savings. That when that period expires, when the promotion expires, I'm just going to take that straight out of my savings, pay it off immediately, and then nothing to worry about. At least I made £2 interest on my savings account from it, so it worked out pretty well for me. And then The 4,750, that's another interesting debt because that's on my Aqua credit card. And Aqua, every now and then they give me these promotions where it's like, I have got a full credit card video. If you guys do want to know more about credit cards and the best one to get, I'll put that in the iCards as well, or in the description below. But yeah, I got that credit card. My balance, my credit limit is quite decent at the moment. And every now and then they say like, if you want to do a balance transfer or a cash transfer, you can do that and not pay any interest for like 9 months, 6 months, 12 months, whatever. Prior to 3% fee. So I was like, hell yeah, I'm taking all that. I'm taking out as much as I can because I can not pay it back for 9 months. All I got to do again, the same rules with my overdraft, is put it in a savings account, hope it goes up, and then pay it back later. In this case, I put a video out last week before last, about why I stopped investing because I didn't have an emergency fund. The money wasn't really there right now for me to invest. However, anyone who's in the investment sector, you realize that now it's a great time to buy. It's a big dip, especially in tech stocks. And what do you know? Aqua said, hey, if you want to take some money out, 3% fee, but no interest. So I'm like, all right, I'll take out as much as I can, throw that in Tesla, and in 6 months, I didn't actually throw it in Tesla. I will do a video soon on that because I think it's quite interesting to see what I actually invested in. That's going to be a separate one for my portfolio anyway. It's going to be an actual thing that I'm making out of that. But yeah, I took the money out, put it in some investments. I said hopefully in the next 6 to 9 months, I'll have made more than 3% profit on that. And actually what I did instead was the 3% fee. I was like, okay, that 3% fee is going to be X. And if I put, a certain amount in my lifetime ISA, the government will give me X back as a bonus. So I've already made that fee back. I've already made profit on that. As long as my investments don't make a negative return in the next 6 months, then I paid it off in its entirety and keep the profits. So it's alright, things are okay. Again, however, that is still a debt. I'm not going to deny that debt does still exist. But yeah, 0% finance. I've already paid off. I've already earned back the fees that it took me to take the money out. So we're in an interesting spot. Now what else is there? There's the £3,000 tuition fee loan, the other 71k, and then the £15,000 loan that I took out. So first of all, the loan that I took out was, I think I mentioned this in the past in separate videos. Last year when I fixed, 2020, when I fixed my parents' bathroom, we got new carpets in the house, we fixed the back garden fence, loads of other expenses. I got a lot of things sorted out last year. And the reason why I did that, well, the reason how I was able to do that, I took out this loan. Technically speaking, I did have the money at the time to pay off most of those things if I wanted to in cash, but it was more like, do I really want to spend all my money now and have no money next year? Because my parents don't support me much. Like my parents have, they are not doing too well financially. So I spend all the money, everything that I own, I buy myself. I kind of own all my stuff. And it's like, yes, I want to help back home, but at what cost? I can't just help them and not help myself. I've got to look out for myself as well. So I was like, you know what? I'll take out this loan. The reason why it's interesting, as with everything else here, is that I got it through a company called Future Finance, which is specifically designed for UK students to take out loans as maintenance or tuition. And through them, I pay off like £5 a month while I'm still studying. There's like a 3-month break after I graduate, and then I make the proper repayments back to that loan. And even with that, the interest rate is 12.5%, which is like, it's not the lowest, but it is relatively low for a loan of that size for someone like me who's unemployed and a student. So I was like, yeah, it's not a bad deal. I'll take that. I'm planning to pay it back in advance. If I can get a summer internship next year, pretty much all of that is going to go into repaying that loan. But it's not, again, it still exists, but I've got 10 years or so to pay it off. The interest rates are very low. The repayments right now are ridiculously low. So again, just like all this other debt, it does exist, but it's not like on my back. It's kind of like in the background there. And I kind of view it as a smart expense because I used it to keep myself afloat in the short term, while super long term repayments. And yeah, it's annoying, but again, it doesn't really exist. The last two are the student tuition fees. The reason why I separated the 3k from the 71k is because the 3k for this year I've got to pay for myself because I've retook my first year twice, and this is me currently taking my second year. And Student Finance England were like, we're not paying again. You got to pay for yourself this time. So that's a bit annoying. Thank you for the pandemic for kind of ruining last year for me and costing me £3,000. But yeah, that's why I separated it. There's no other reason for it. Actually, to be fair, that also another interesting thing about that is that because I'm paying it myself and not Student Finance, it means I'm not getting charged 5.4% annual interest on it. Which, to be fair, 5.4% is actually quite significant. I mean, it's obviously less than 12.5, but it is quite significant considering it's a student loan. It's kind of just, whatever. It's the government just giving you money and saying, pay us back with interest. It's an interesting caveat that they never really disclosed fully. I mean, the information was there, but not every student knows that they have to how the student loan works. So it's interesting, but maybe we'll discuss that in another video. But yeah, that 3K I guess you can argue is a bit more interesting than the other 71K that I own, that I owe. But that 75K, 71, it's closer to 72 than 71. But I just like saying 70 for some reason. So technically I owe student finance, quote unquote, also the university, 75K. But yeah, that 71,000 that I separated was money that I was given by Student Finance England. That's a combination of maintenance and tuition, and obviously interest over the years. So that, similar to the other loan, I don't have to start paying off until after I graduate. And even then, I only pay off whatever I earn over 25K. They take 9% of the surplus, and that's my student loan repayments. So if I'm earning 26 grand a year, that extra 1,000 above 25K, they'll take 9% of that, which is £90. And that's what I'll pay off per year. So you can see how it's not actually substantial. If I'm earning 30K a year, which is like the top 20%, I imagine, in the UK, that's probably I'm probably relatively quite rich, quite wealthy with that much money. Even though it doesn't sound like a lot, that's going to show how low the bottom line is. But anyway, if I'm earning 30K a year, the government are only taking £450 per year to pay off my student loans. And after 30 years, when they disregard that loan anyway and pay it, completely scrap it, I would have only paid like 15 grand. I wouldn't have paid anywhere near what I owe. So as far as I'm concerned in my head, I only owe what I pay back, and I only know what I paid back in 30 years time. So that's another debt that doesn't really exist. None of these debts really exist. I mean, rent and bills do technically exist, but I'm going to be getting a student loan payment in April that will basically cover that in totality anyway. So all of these debts are kind of fake. That's why I was kind of reluctant to do this video, because I don't feel like I'm 100K in debt. But technically speaking, I am 100K in debt, and I should really fix that. That's hence why I'm wearing a jumper. I cut my hair myself this time going around. But yeah, that's essentially it. And obviously, once you tie on postage and packaging, interest, VAT, finder's fee, and all that other crap, I probably owe like a couple mil. Jeff Bezos gonna bail me out of the situation I was in. So yeah, that's kind of all I've got to say. I hope you guys found that somewhat interesting. I don't really know what you can do with this information. Now you know what I'm worth. Congratulations. I do think it might be interesting for me as a personal standpoint to observe my big picture growth, I guess, because obviously it's good to know what my investments are, my expected returns, monthly salary, etc. But just having the big idea, knowing exactly what my net worth is, yeah, it's been eye-opening. It has showed me maybe I should put more emphasis into paying off that 12.55% student loan debt, because that's a lot of that is quite a high interest rate. And even though I say it's relatively low considering my situation, if I were to invest that money, I probably wouldn't make that much interest per year, which means that I'm losing quite a lot. And when I'm talking about pension being future money, this is another future expense. Not even future money, it's future expense that I can bring right down, now by making those payments today. So maybe I'm going to start taking a better look at the interest-bearing debts that I owe. Which is only that one loan, to be fair. My credit cards, the overdraft, obviously rent and bills, there's no interest applied to that. The 3K that I owe, tuition fees, there's no interest tied to that either. Of course, the student finance loan, there is interest tied to it, but as I said, 30 years, 25K is phantom debt, is what I call it. So yeah, that's it fundamentally. I'm deeply in debt, but I'm not troubled by it. So here's to shark loans in the future, Bitcoin investments. But as of right now, that's it for me. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. I hope, again, you did find it somewhat useful. If you do have any questions or you want to hear me speak anything more about anything that I mentioned in this video today, as always, let me know down below in the comments. You can also reach out to me on Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, whatever. The links are all in my description, so you can find me there. I've had a lot of interesting chats recently with people based on my last, the Opinion Corner series. So maybe I might work on like a little part 2 coming out soon. Maybe, potentially. But yeah, that's it from me. So hope you guys have enjoyed, and I'll talk to you all in the next one. Peace. Money gang.